we go. Good morning and welcome to Kingdom Age Education. My name is Lisa Annabelli and we are in the book of Ruth. We had a great time last week learning about Ruth and Orpah, and we learned about Naomi and all of the things related. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, we talked about from barrenness to barley harvest, and that is Ruth chapter 1. And if you haven't heard it, you'll want to go and listen to it because it was extremely encouraging. Would you all agree, to us personally? But it was also extremely liberating to recognize who we are and how God made us, and that He has created us different and why we need each other. So it is absolutely exciting. And if you have your TV on or something, please mute your, or I can mute you.
Stand up straight. Come on.
Hold on.
I think it's Karen.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to mute her. How do I do that?
Did you get her? Go to the upper
mute. I got her. There we go. All right. No disrespect, but sometimes I got to mute you because you got something on in the background. All right. So today is Ruth chapter 2, and I haven't titled it per se, but I did put our first point as Enter Boaz. And so did anybody get a chance to look up what the name Boaz means? We read a little bit about Boaz and who he was based on verse 1. And it talks about that he is a relative. It doesn't tell us which relative, but it says that he is a relative of Naomi's deceased husband, Elimelech. And Elimelech meant my God is king. And so he had died in, where did they go? Moab. He had died in Moab, and they come back for the barley harvest, and they meet this man named Boaz. And according to the Hebrew, his name is, it's uncertain meaning is what they say, but it means fleetness. Like a fleet, like a fleet of cargo or a fleet of ships or a fleet of airplanes. His name means fleetness. And did you know this? He is an ancestor of David, and his name also is on the pillar in the front of the temple. Remember in Solomon's temple, the two names on the two pillars were Joab and Boaz? Joash and Boaz. But Boaz is one of the names on the Temple of Solomon. And this is a little tidbit for you that want to do a little research. If you follow the Masonic, I don't go looking for it, it finds me. But if you follow the Masonic, it will bring you back to Solomon's temple. If you know anything about the Masonic and their temples, they are very similar because they made their pattern after Solomon's temple, and they even have the two pillars of Boaz. And if somebody can find that verse, what the other name is on it, I'm drawing a blank right this minute. But the Temple of Solomon is the prototype of what the Masonic used. And you may ask why, but don't forget Solomon, even though he was the wisest man in the world and that no one will ever carry the wisdom of Solomon, he was so wise in some areas and so foolish in others, because remember, he took on Canaanite wives who turned his heart against God. Oh, Boaz and Jacob. Thank you so much, Roxanne. And the reality of the Canaanite wives were they brought Canaanite practices into the Temple of Solomon. That's why when you read the book of Ezekiel and all the things that Ezekiel saw in his visions of the temple with all the writings on the walls and how the Levitical priests were facing the east and worshiping sun gods, it was because in Solomon's temple, they were actually worshiping other gods in that temple because of the Canaanite women that had turned the hearts of Solomon. So the Masonic models or uses the Solomon's temple as a prototype temple. And you can study that yourself. I've done a lot of the study on it. And it actually goes all the way back to the Phoenicians, which is Phoenicia, which is Tyre and Sidon, which is where I believe the headquarters of Satan is. Because if you read, I think it's Ezekiel 8, it talks about the prince of Tyre and equates him with Satan and operations accordingly. That's a whole nother Bible study, but I'm just sharing with you what it talks about here with Boaz, that his name is on one of the pillars of the Temple of Solomon. And if he's related to wealth, that's why the Masonic use his name, because names and symbols, remember I've taught you this, names and symbols are very powerful, and they want you to know that we are wealthy. That's why you want to be a part of us. Okay? So Boaz is one of the relatives of, oh yes, Susan, please go right ahead.
I just wanted to mention that fleetness also means speed, swiftness, and rapid movement.
Yes, speed, swiftness, and you're like, if you're fleet-footed, right? You're swift. So we're in the language of the gazelle. Isn't this interesting that we're in gazelle language? And so just remember what we're dealing with here as we enter into Boaz. And this is where I get the idea, it doesn't say it biblically, but where I get the idea that Elimelech was a wealthy man. Remember I said in Ruth 1 that I thought that he was wealthy and that his sons would have inherited the wealth, because Naomi doesn't come across as though she was broke. It comes across as though she lost everything when it came to men, and women back in those days without a man felt like they weren't safe, they weren't covered, they didn't feel protected. And it was very dangerous to be a woman without a man back in those days. All right, so that is our man Boaz. And it says in Ruth chapter 2, verse 1, now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. You're probably wondering, where am I reading from? It is the NASB 1976 version. Notice how much your language has changed in your Bible. What does your Bible say? What does somebody else have for verse 1? Anybody have a paper Bible? Ruth 2, chapter 2, verse 1?
So I have the Message version open. It so happened that Naomi had a relative by marriage, a man prominent and rich, connected with Elimelech's family. His name is Boaz.
Okay, that's pretty close. All right.
Different. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure you guys are like, where are you reading from? Because that doesn't sound like my Bible. All right, and then it says, and Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, who, remember, she called herself bitter. Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara. Please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I may find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. All right, stop. I want you to recognize who Ruth is, because her character is revealed in this one verse. If people had to describe you in one sentence, how would they describe you? Because this description of Ruth is so valuable to us, because we learned of the history of the Moabitess in chapter 1. But when you look at the character of Ruth in chapter 2, you realize why she was a clinger. It wasn't just that she was a settler. It also reveals, based on her character, why she was a clinger. Look at this. What do I learn about Ruth in this verse? I learned, number one, she has an impeccable work ethic. She may have known that Naomi had money, and sometimes clingers can be barnacles. Barnacles attach themselves to large vessels because they want to be known by that which is large because they themselves are so small. A clinger like Ruth is coming to add value to your life. A barnacle is coming to try to take something off of your life or be known by your life. Discerning the difference is critical. Scrape off the barnacles and hang on to the clingers. And if you don't notice them right away, don't worry, they'll reveal themselves shortly. Whether they're a clinger and they're coming to add value, or whether they're a barnacle and they see that you're a rising star or a moving vessel and they just want to be a part of the cruise ship. Is that making sense to you all? Mm-hmm. She shows from that verse, please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I might find favor. She knew she had a strong work ethic, and that if Naomi would just release her to go to the field, she knew she would find favor with someone to be able to work the field and bring back some food to add value to the home. She wasn't a squatter. She wasn't a loafer. And can I tell you something? We got to be really careful because the more you love someone, the more you allow barnacles. There are a lot of barnacles hanging on churches. But a church that can identify a barnacle will not platform a barnacle, but they will platform clingers. Because clingers are coming to add value. They're not coming because they want your platform. They're not coming because they're trying to become famous. Like, let me just share this. Carrie knows this. We have well-known worship leaders that attend our church. And Carrie told me a story because Carrie's in charge of the or used to be in charge of the hospitality greeting community of our church. And so she's in charge of everything on the main floor of our church. So she knows people I don't know. And she saw one day in the winter standing outside, because we have to open the doors even in the winter because of the number of people that come into our church, standing outside under a space heater, two very well-known worship leaders and their families. Is that right, Carrie? And their families. And they were standing outside under the space heater.
Yeah, I think you could even say their name.
Go, Carrie, you tell the story. Why am I telling it? I didn't know if you were busy, so I didn't want to. Go ahead, tell the story.
No, Jeremy Camp and Josh Baldwin they had come in late, and it's 30 degrees outside with their families, and because it was family service, and they were both outside under the heaters because they had got there only like 10 minutes before service starts. You have to get a seat inside the building. You have to get there like an hour before the service. So they were outside, and I said, "Oh my gosh, they're outside," to one of our staff, and they're like, "Okay." I'm like, "We don't want to move some people maybe out." I don't know. I just, I'm still processing everything. The amount of like what I would consider celebrity coming from, Orange County, California. That's not here. So praise the Lord for that. They are just part of our congregation. So yeah. They're just who we are. And they had to sit outside for the whole service and their family.
And the family. And they don't demand to lead worship, right, Carrie? They don't go to Pastor Dustin and say, "Hey, don't you know who I am? Why don't I get to sing on the band?" You have to understand, those are clingers. Josh Baldwin's a clinger. For people that don't know him, they only hear him on the radio or they only see him in concert. We know the man. We sit in church with him, and he does not run around and look for a special seat. Those are what I call clingers. They're not barnacles. Does that? I'm just using that as an extreme example of what we've seen in our church. But you've probably seen it in your company. You've probably seen it in your friendships. You've probably seen it in your churches. And what I want you to look for and make sure who you are is that you're a clinger and not a barnacle. So Ruth says, I want to go into the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I might find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. Ruth is no longer some random Moabitess. She is no longer her son's widow. Naomi has now shifted her language from a distant person to a clinger status, and she calls her daughter. You are now family of family. You see, it's one thing to say to someone, I will go where you go. I will be where you are. Your God will be my God. But once it becomes reciprocal, now you have a match. And once you have a match, now you are going to see multiplication. There are people that are going to want to attach to you because you're rising. They're going to want to be with you because you have money. They're going to want to be around you because of what they can get from you. But then there are going to be people that are going to cling to you because they want to add value to you. They want to add value. And when you find value-added people clinging to you, please be reciprocal and let them know that you want a reciprocal relationship with them. Because they, as a clinger, need to know that you recognize them as a clinger, not as a barnacle. I've been misunderstood to be a barnacle by some, not realizing I was a clinger. I was just coming to add value. Have any of you experienced that? Where you have felt like you went into a relationship to add value and they misunderstood you, misinterpreted you, didn't see you, didn't understand you, and therefore treated you as a barnacle when you actually went in to be a clinger? It happens in marriages. It happens in friendships. It happens in companies. It happens in churches. It happens in Bible studies. And you know what? When you know you're a clinger, you know you carry a work ethic, you know you're coming to add value, and they think you're a barnacle. It's hurtful. Can you forgive them for they knew not what they were doing? Just because they couldn't see your value doesn't mean this is who you are. Thank you, Carol. I want people to view each of you as value-added people. You don't want to just read the Word of God and have nothing change in you. We read the Word of God to see who we are, and if you realize, hey, I've been a barnacle, guess what? No shame. You can become a clinger. Because barnacles are clingers with the wrong attitude. They both attach, but one comes to attach to add value, the other one comes to take something away. But they're both attachers. And you know what? With one prayer of repentance between you and the Lord alone, you can go from being a barnacle to being a clinger. And so she was a woman with a strong work ethic. And so Naomi says, go. And then it says in verse 3, so Ruth departed and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she just happened to come. I love the Bible. She just happened to show up in the right field at the right time. You know what favor is? It's God putting you in the right place at the right time. Have you ever showed up in the right place at the right time and everything worked to your good? And you're like, I did nothing but show up. And you didn't even know you were showing up in the right place at the right time. This is why you need to live with a perpetual yes inside of you when God invites you to do something. Because he's trying to set you up for success. But when you put off obedience to a more convenient time for yourself, you may not show up in the right place at the right time. Because delayed obedience is not where the sweet spot of favor lies. Favor lies in the sweet spot of swift or fleet obedience. That's why I say yes. Because I never know when that yes is going to put me in the right place at the right time. And everything in my life will change in a moment. So I've been practicing saying yes, 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 and obeying quickly for a lot of years. And I'm telling you, one day I'm going to show up in the right place at the right time, and everything about me will change forever. And the same can happen for you. So she shows up in the right place at the right time. So it happened that she showed up at the right to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Now, behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. Here we are. Boaz came from the house of bread, the same house of bread that Naomi heard there was bread back. And said to the reapers, so Boaz, as a businessman, is coming to the field, talking to the ones that are reaping, to his employees, and he says, may the Lord God bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant, who was in charge of the reapers. So the leader of the servants is where Boaz came, and the first question he asked the man is not how much have you reaped, not how much have we produced, not how many bushels do we have. He says, who's that girl? You see, when you know your field, when someone new shows up in it, you notice it immediately. That's why Proverbs says, pay attention to your flocks and watch your fields. When somebody new shows up in your field, you better know who it is. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody who does. And he goes to the head servant and says, whose young woman is this? I don't think he was being a creeper. I don't think he was being a Rico Suave. I don't think he was like, hey, baby. I don't think that's what he was doing. This is a professional business owner that notices somebody new reaping in his field. And with respect, he says, whose young woman is this? And the servant in charge of the reapers answered and said, and let me say this too, you're probably like, wow, there's a lot in this. Let me say this too. If you get put in charge of something by somebody that's in a position of authority, you better know darn well who's in their field. Because when I come or they come and ask you who's in my field and you don't know, that's challenging for business owners. They put you as the lead servant in order to know what's going on in that field. If you don't know and you're not being a good steward of the servanthood you've been given, when Pastor Dustin comes to me and says, I want to know about this, this, and this, I better have an answer because I'm a servant in his field. Am I making sense to you all? Don't put people in charge of things that don't know what's going on. So he goes to his servant in charge of the reapers, and the servant answers, verse 6, she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, please, he's quoting her because she went to the head servant, and she said, please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. Basically, let me clean up the poop behind the horses in the parade. Do you see what she was asking to do? She didn't ask for some high-level position. She went in low, and she knew if I go in low, I'll have favor. Don't be afraid to take a low seat. The low seats are where favor is found. Thus she came and has remained from the morning until now. She has been sitting in the house only for a little while. This woman was working out in the field throughout the heat of the day, and she only came in for a short rest stop. Work ethic. Ruth's character is being identified. This is important because wealthy people aren't interested in lazy people. Do I need to say that again for those in the back? Because there are people in your life that want to be rich, but they are lazy. There are people that want to be wealthy, but they don't want to work. Can I tell you a secret? No work ethic, no wealth. I was just with people that have 59 acres of land and a 20,000 square foot house. I looked at the wife and I said, is this hard to maintain? And she's like, you have no idea. You know how many people she's overseeing on that estate? Everybody wants money, but they don't realize more money, more work. Wealth is for workers. Wealth is not for lazy people. So if she's going to attract a wealthy man, do you see what God is showing you through Ruth chapter 2? She wants to attract a wealthy man. You're not going to attract wealth unless you're a worker. Women that are single, that are like, I just want to marry a rich man. And she's sitting at home eating bonbons, getting her nails done. You ain't going to attract money. Miss Jacqueline, they ain't going to attract money if they don't want to work. I'm just telling you the truth, you guys. You have to have a work ethic if you want to attract wealth. Wealth is attracted to workers. All right. I'm just trying to help you so you can help other people. Because you're going to come across people that want to be wealthy, but they don't want to work, and then they wonder why they don't attract wealth. It starts with being a worker. Work. Show a work ethic. I don't care what the field is. Show a work ethic. All right. Then Boaz said to Ruth. So Boaz comes in, speaks to the servant, gets a report about who she is. Once he hears a report that attracts him, who's a wealthy owner, he now speaks to her directly. Then Boaz said to Ruth, listen carefully, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. Do you think this man knows what goes on amongst the women in the field? He knows that those women get raped. He knows that those women get pillaged. He knows how the reapers treat those women. He knows his field and he knows the workers of the field. So he tells her, let your eyes be, verse 9, let your eyes be on the field which they reap and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you. There's your, oh, go ahead.
One of the things too is she was a Moabite, she was a foreigner, and they were considered distrustful and despised by the Israelites. So to be a widow without any kind of covering, that was the first ones they'd pick on, start abusing wickedly.
Good. Thank you. That's very good insight.
The other thing too is Naomi would have known that too. And then Ruth would have probably known it too, but yet she knew that they had to eat and she needed to provide for them. So she also laid her life down knowing I could be raped out there. I could be abused and beaten. Yep. So, I mean, that's another character of her. She willingly went knowing that that was a possibility.
100%. Well, and her character is seen too, Darlene, in Ruth 1, when she knew that Naomi had nothing to offer and she wanted to go anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Do you guys see who Ruth really is? No wonder they named the book after her. This is a woman of impeccable character. She's not some low-life, low-budget woman that's just trying to get a free ride. She carried something, and then she attracted who she was. All right. And then he said, when you are thirsty, go to the water jars and drink from what the servants draw. Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground. This was not worship. This was honor. This was cultural honor for you that don't understand their culture. bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your sight that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? She didn't doubt she was going to receive favor for her work ethic, but she thought she might be rejected for being a Moabite, because the Moabites knew that they did not, like Darlene just said, did not have favor with the Israelites. Verse 10, verse 11, and Boaz answered and said to her, here's her reputation that preceded her. All that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me, and how you left your father, your mother, your land, and the land of your birth, and came to a people that you did not previously know. All right, pause. What did Jesus say? He who leaves what? Mother, right, Carol? Mother, father, sister, brother, land, homes, to follow me? You do not think that the Jews listening to him say that did not know that Jesus was identifying himself with Ruth. I've taught you this. Everything in the New Testament is in the Old Testament. We just haven't found it yet. Well, guess what? We just found another quote of Jesus. She left everything and followed Naomi, and Jesus said, you won't leave anything and follow me, and I'm about to offer you everything. But she left everything and wasn't offered anything. That would have been an indictment to them, because number one, she's a woman, and she was a more impeccable character than those men that were standing around him and those Pharisees that thought they know so much. It's a shame honor culture, and Jesus was shaming them into being honorable. And we have to ask ourselves the question, if we have Jesus who's offered us everything, because what did Jesus say? If you leave all these things, you will be given all of them back in this life. People forget that. In this life and in the life to come. So you'll get a double portion of now and not yet, but it starts with following me. And she followed a woman who had no promises, nothing to offer, and she followed anyway. You know how many Christians are below the level of Ruth? They won't follow nobody for no reason. And then we are at a Jesus level because of where we are on the side of the cross, and we still won't follow. And he's like, what are you afraid of? I'm about to give you everything. You're going to get more family. You're going to get more money. You're going to get more homes. You're going to get more land than you could ever dream of. But it starts with following me and leaving it all behind. That doesn't mean become poor or go sell your house. What it is what are you willing to give up to follow me? If I ask for your home, will you give it? If I ask for your child, will you give it? If I ask for your money, will you give it? You know what most people say? Nope. And here's where the indictment is against us. If a company asks you to sell your home and come move to where they are, if a child says, come grandma, grandpa, come live where we are, dun, 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 we will do for others what we won't do for God. That's the indictment against us. You'll do it for family. You'll do it for money, but you won't do it for me? I hear the Holy Spirit saying, shame on you. I have so much to offer you. I'm trying to honor you. I'm trying to bless you. I'm trying to make you bountiful. I'm trying to make you a prototype picture in the earth. Just like Ruth was. She had no clue she would be in the lineage of Jesus Christ. We're so short-sighted that we can't see past the end of our nose. We don't think legacy. We don't realize that we're going to have grandkids and legacy that's going to declare, grandma used to do this, great grandma did that, great grandpa did this, and now I am who I am because of them. All because, oh, brother, I've always lived in this city. I can't go live anywhere else. Grandkids call. Oh, I'm on my way. I'll sell my house and come. You meet a man, single women. Oh, I don't know about all that. God might make me live in a grass hut in Africa and sleep on a dirt floor. I don't know about all that. And guess what? A guy shows up. Anything for you, baby. I'll leave everything and follow you because I want a ring on it. I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just being honest. Can we think honestly about what the Word of God is telling us? This foreigner, this Moabite woman followed a widow who had nothing to offer her. And now her reputation is in the ears of a wealthy landowner. Dun, 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 dun. Do you think she saw that coming? Do you think that Ruth saw Boaz coming? That's why it's called faith. Because you have to step out when you can't see a thing. Not knowing what's coming. And you know what's happened? You've been taught such a negative narrative that you think if I step out and don't know what's coming, your initial thought is, I'm going to lose everything and gain nothing. So you refuse to step out because you don't believe that God is a replenisher. You think he's a taker. You don't realize he's a giver. And he gives more than you could ask, think, or even imagine. And the reason you've never known it is because you've never stepped out when there was nothing offered to you. That's why people don't get to experience. They're like, wow, you experienced such an incredible life. Guess what? You know how many times I've stepped out and been offered nothing? I left everything and moved to Malaysia with the offer of nothing. I came out of Malaysia with a husband, a son. My family is restored. And so many experiences and memories I can't even explain. But what did Jesus say? It doesn't come without hardship and trials. You see, we think if I leave everything and follow him, I just walked in to Disneyland and I've got the express pass and I'm going to be brought to the front of every line and go on every ride and live my best life. And I've got an all access pass to all the food I want to eat in the park. That's what we think. That is not what Jesus has promised us. Because guess what? Character and maturity does not come without tribulation and trials. And I would much rather be mature than be immature. So we have a church that is pain averse. So we avoid it at all costs and we wonder why we're immature. Now do you understand? Spare the rod and ruin the child. The rod is not to beat you because you broke a lamp in the house. The rod and the staff, they comfort you because it grows you up. It's a measuring rod, not a whooping stick, people. Spare the measuring rod and ruin the child. Give them no standard, no boundaries, no discipleship, which is what discipline means, and you ruin them. Ruth obviously had a family that raised her right, even in a Moabite country. And she didn't even know who Jesus was. Do you see how we have to look at some of these Old Testament characters to realize, wow, if we put her here, we're like way down here. And we think we're so stinking spiritual? Like, just measure yourself according to Ruth. Let's put the measuring rod of Ruth up and figure out, how tall am I? Or how short am I? And that's just Ruth. That's not even Jesus or David or Boaz or anybody else. That's just Ruth. This is why we have to keep growing, keep walking, stay connected to community, don't quit, love well, forgive quickly, move swiftly, don't be afraid to admit you're wrong, and let's just keep going together. It's going to be hard, but you know what? This is why you consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because it creates maturity. And we need to grow up. Because I'm tired of daycare Christianity. Pass the bottle, pass the pacifier, pass the crackers, pass the Cheerios. Wah, wah, wah. I didn't get the microphone. Wah. You didn't put me in the front row. Wah. I didn't get that job. Wah. I prayed and God didn't answer. Wah. I didn't get healed. Wah.
Lisa, I also
I'm sorry. I'm on a snarky moment. I'm done. Please stop me. Go ahead.
I also think that Ruth, coming from being a Moabite and all the things that represented, that she saw Naomi, who once she went to the new land, lost her family, she wasn't willing to give in to the culture of the Moabites. She went back to where she knew God would take care of her. And Ruth stayed with Naomi because of that, because you were talking about Ruth's character.
Yeah.
So they moved to to where they met Ruth, or they moved to where the husband took them. But Ruth saw Naomi saying, I'm not going to give in to this culture of where we are. I'm going back to where I know God will take care of us. And she saw that.
That's assuming she knew who God was.
Who?
We don't know what the Moabites were taught. Right. I'd have to do more research. Go ahead, Darlene.
That's what I was going to say too. We don't know if, because they were half, they were still family. They just weren't covenant because they interbred. So we don't know if their father or their mother taught them any truth, like you, I'd have to research that a little bit more too. Maybe she did have a little bit of godly bringing up.
But I think she saw in Naomi,
right,
something that she had never seen before. And she's like, okay, this woman is willing to move away and go back to where she came from instead of stay here and give in to what the customs are here.
Yeah, it's possible. The only concern I have is that Naomi was bitter. And so I don't want to make Naomi out to be this saint. The book is not called Naomi because Naomi was bitter. She left full and came back empty. She's about to say that. Like, she was really angry. And bitterness, we know, takes root. And she lost her husband and her 2 sons. That is a pain that if you haven't experienced it, you don't understand it. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. But even widows have to be very careful because it's easy to get bitter that God took your husband away from you because of the grief. Grief that gets allowed to go past the expiration date of how long you're supposed to grieve can turn into bitterness. And you have to be careful. You will always remember, but you are not supposed to be a perpetual griever. They only used to be able to grieve for 7 days in the Bible. They put an end to it. And they had certain clothing they wore while they were grieving. Because if you let grief go on and on and on and on and on, it will consume you.
And that's why in the Bible it says, let the dead bury the dead.
Yes. But you have to know how to deal with grief. Dealing with grief does not mean go get another man. That is not how we deal with grief, by replacing what was stolen. We deal with grief by leaning on the Lord and Him alone. Because grief is a hard thing. Loss is hard. Took me a year to overcome a friendship. I can't even imagine a marriage. Does that make sense? So I'm not minimizing the amount of time, but you have to understand, in their culture, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't intimacy. It was production of children. That's why they got married. Women, there was no candlelight dinners and Italian pasta with red wine. I'm sorry. It was, hey, baby, let's produce a child. And then he was gone again. Yeah. That's why they only could grieve 7 days. There was no emotional tie. It was a covenant made for the sake of production. Yeah. Sorry, Westerners, to remove your romantic understanding of Ruth and Boaz. All right, let's keep going.
Let me
comment? Go ahead, Terry.
I think Ruth had 10 years of experience of witnessing the mother's love. And that's what drew her to Naomi.
Yes, when she was loving her sons through the death of her father. Yeah. I just want to be, can I do this? I'm sorry. I just want to be careful that you don't romanticize these biblical characters as though they're Western. These were not romantic relationships. Covenant is not romantic. It's commitment. You see, the divorce rate in the West is so high because when the romance isn't there and the man isn't attentive to my needs, then we get divorced. Or when the woman's not meeting my needs, I go commit adultery. So we get divorced. They made a covenant, and that covenant was not going to be broken. It wasn't about romance. So I don't want you to think that Ruth, when we get there, Ruth uncovering Boaz's feet was some romantic thing. And now you start teaching all the single ladies how to uncover a man's, blanket and lay at his feet. It wasn't romance, people. I know I'm ruining your love story of Ruth and Boaz. I'm sorry. Let's just read. I'm trying to teach you how to become mature men and women, okay? If you want to be a wealthy man, that's how you treat your servants. You make sure you hire people you can trust. If you're a woman that wants to attract wealth, you better have a work ethic. And all of us should have a reputation. And all of us should realize Jesus was quoting Ruth. That was the whole point of all of that. There's your Cliff's Notes. Carrie, they put up with me. They love me. All right, let's go. All right. So he says, we're in verse 12. Listen to what Boaz says. May the Lord reward your work and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you, Ruth, have come to seek refuge. I love that Boaz was evangelistic. He's like, I don't know what brought you here, but you are now under the wings of the Lord, and He's going to take care of you. Then she said, I have found favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me and indeed have spoken kindly to your maidservant, though I am not like one of your maidservants. She was saying, I'm a foreigner. You could have anybody you want, but thank you for taking care of me. And at mealtime, Boaz said to her, I love it that her work ethic brought her to the right place at the right time. Her reputation preceded her. And now she went from nothing to the table of a wealthy man. Do you see that progression? We're not even halfway through chapter 2, and now she's being invited to eat at his table. Come here that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. So she sat beside the reapers, and he served her. What did Jesus say? In Mark 10:45, for the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. Boaz served her roasted grain. She ate and was satisfied and had some left. Okay, one more thing. Women, always leave something on your plate when you go on a first date. Teach that to single women. Always leave something on your plate when you go on a first date. Why? it reveals you're not greedy. Men are not interested in a woman that is too hungry, because all she becomes is something else he has to feed. I'm teaching you lessons to teach younger women. Always leave a little something on your plate. The first time I went out to eat with my husband, I left things on my plate. I showed him he was more valuable to me than the food on my plate. I wanted to add value to him. I know this is crazy, but I'm telling you, in that culture, it revealed something. If you ask men honestly, if you ask them honestly what they look for in a wife, they're looking for someone that can stand next to them, not somebody they have to carry. Ken, is that right? Jim, is that right? Ronnie, Mike, is that right? They're looking for somebody that will walk next to them. They don't want to carry you. That doesn't make them feel more manly. That actually weighs them down.
You need to ask us that in private.
It's important for women to understand what men are looking for. Because single ladies think men just want you to like lean on them and lay on them and carry me, baby, and provide for me, baby, and protect me, baby. No, men want to be respected, but they also want you to be respectable. They want you to carry yourself well. Look at Melania. That woman makes Trump look better than he is, and he looks pretty good. Because she carries herself well. And whether you recognize it or not, that's what men want. They want you to carry yourself well. Don't usurp them. Don't put them under you. Come alongside of them. Help shoulder the load with them. Let them know you're in it with them. They're strong, but they don't need to be carrying you. They need a helpmate, not a child backpack. So add value to their life. You will bless them. Okay, that's just a little bit of relationship advice.
Lisa,
Roxanne?
Dee wanted to know if you're supposed to ask for a to-go box.
Well, I went out yesterday to dinner with these people that bought me my meals, and I did not ask for a to-go box because it makes you look, it just communicates. When you're around wealthy-minded people, they don't ask for, I don't think Trump says, can I get a to-go box? But you see, we have such a poverty mindset, we would automatically resist and say, well, that's being wasteful. Well, you can live in the mind of wasteful. I'm going to live in the mindset of wealthy because I believe in a God that replenishes. So I would say, as for me, I don't ask for a to-go box because I'm not worried about waste. My eyes are fixed on what does it mean to be wealthy? Not just money. I want to be wealthy in my love. I want to be wealthy in my patience. I want to be wealthy in my kindness. I want to be wealthy in my wisdom and my honor. And I want to be wealthy in my riches because I want to be able to be generous on all occasions. And whether I have $100 or $100 million, I will be generous on all occasions. It's a wealth mindset. Ronnie, go ahead.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but in some cultures, I've read that if you do leave something on your plate, that is like an insult to the chef that you did not think it was any good. Down here in the South, we asked for a to-go plate because we really enjoyed it, and we're going to take it home and enjoy it later on.
Sure. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you have to know the culture you're in. You have to know the culture you're in. I'm just saying, for me, what I have learned being in the kingdom, this is just me. I have learned that it's not wasteful to push. I mean, I had a huge plate of pad thai left over. A huge plate. And I said, if anybody wants it, you're welcome to take it home. Not one person at that table wanted it. Not one person at that table, and everybody had something left on their plate. Not one person took a to-go box.
They used to be called doggy bags.
Doggy bags, exactly, because it was waste. Thank you, Mike. Yes. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. You all get to be you. I'm just telling you, for me, I am trying to operate in a wealth mindset, because when I'm around multimillionaires, if I ask for a doggy bag, I'm going to communicate something. And if I don't practice having a wealth mindset when I'm not around wealthy people, I'm not going to know how to act when I get around them. I'm going to be eating caviar, and then I'm going to say, can I get that in a little to-go bucket? Because I want to eat that at home, because that's so dang expensive. I mean, I'm not going to ask for a to-go cup because I didn't drink all the wine in my glass. Like, I'm not telling you what to do. Carol's laughing. I'm not telling you what to do, and I'm not trying to scold you and say you're doing anything wrong to do a to-go bag. I'm just telling you, the more wealth mindset I get, the more I see how I used to operate in a poverty mindset. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not telling you to be anybody you're not. I'm just telling you, for me, I grew up on government cheese. Do you understand who I am? Everything that I'm wearing is thrift store. Okay? But I'm going to look good in my thrift store clothes. And they stopped at a thrift store driving to the Airbnb. And guess what I got? A Lululemon winter jacket. Because the person I was with said, you have to buy this. And I'm like, why? She said, because it's Lululemon, it's $50, and this is a $500 coat. So I'm going to wear my Lululemon jacket that people think I paid $500 for, and I paid $50. Do you see what I'm saying? I could care less if it's Lululemon or lemonade. I don't care. I could care less. I don't even know what Lululemon means or why it's important. But rich people do. And you know what? She's a very wealthy realtor, and she knew exactly what that name meant. I would have walked past that black jacket and thought, I don't need a coat. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if it means anything to me. It matters to the people I'm with, because I'm adding value to them. Am I going beyond your ability to comprehend? You're like, can we stick with the text? Yes, let's stick with the text. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, come here that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of wine in the vinegar. She sat beside the reapers. He served her roasted grain. She ate and was satisfied and had some left. What happened with the feeding of the 5,000? They ate and were satisfied and had leftovers. And what did Jesus say? Pick up the baskets full. So guess what? Sometimes abundance has excess, and he says, take it home. Other times abundance has excess, and he says, leave it alone. And knowing what to do, when and where matters. So please don't be a one-trick pony that always has to take it home, because you know what? Sometimes you're not supposed to. That's all I'm trying to say. Sometimes you're not supposed to. And last night at that restaurant was not the time for me to be asking for no to-go box. Does that make sense? Thank you for understanding. When she rose to glean, Boaz commanded his servants, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not insult her. And also you shall purposely pull out of her some grain from the bundles and leave it, that she may glean, and do not rebuke her. Rebuke does not mean correct her. Rebuke meant just leave her alone, let her have the excess, and actually leave some so she doesn't have to work as hard. That's what favor looks like. It's a tailwind, not a headwind. So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. She took it out and gave Naomi what she had left after she was satisfied. Her mother-in-law then said to her, "Where did you glean today, and where did you work? May he who took notice of you be blessed." So this is to tell you, she did not know she was going into the field of Boaz. Naomi did not know that she was in the field of Boaz. This was literally the hand of God leading her into the right field. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by the Lord, who has not withdrawn his kindness to the living and the dead." And Naomi said to her, "The man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives." That statement is the spark of hope that came into Naomi. You have to understand, she would have said this with absolute joy. Then Ruth the Moabitess said, "Furthermore, he said to me, you shall stay close to my servants until they have finished all my harvest." And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good that you go out with his maids, lest others fall upon you in another field." So she stayed close by the maids of Boaz in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. The point I wanted you to see at the end of this chapter is when Naomi said to her, "The man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives." For a widow to have a relative that is showing favor to a clinger that followed her home meant hope was restored to a bitter woman. It was the start of hope. Now, here's what I need you to understand. People are hurting. People are struggling, and even people on this call today have pain that they don't talk about. They struggle with hopelessness. And sometimes, more often than not, our obedience creates something in other people that causes them to have hope. When I went on that mansion visit yesterday, I didn't go there because I want people to think, "Ooh, Lisa's in the lifestyles of the rich and famous." I went there to add value for the sale of a house. Little did I know my obedience was going to spark hope in the owner who has struggled with hopelessness. You don't know why God is sending you somewhere. You don't know what your obedience is going to produce. But it's never about money. It's always about the people that need to hear something come out of you that adds value to them, and the value they need is something that sparks hope. Because they're in a battle you know nothing about. And you showing up at the right place at the right time might be the very gift that they need. And if you go in only wanting to be a value-added person, they will sense that. And then if you carry something of extreme value, like the voice of God with you, you will actually cause them that are dying on the inside and you didn't know it. Because money is a great masquerader. People see money and their eyes sparkle if they don't have it. But value-added people that have a wealth mindset see people and carry the voice of God. And then we're allowed to become rivers of living water that pour in to a mansion that is dry and weary. And that's why God is wanting you to have a wealth mindset. Because if he puts you in front of wealthy people, You can't want what they have. He's sending you there to give them something they need. And that is what Naomi saw when Ruth, or that is what Ruth gave and Boaz saw when he walked into the field and said, "Who is this young woman?" And little did anyone know that Ruth's presence in the right place at the right time was going to bring hope to a bitter woman named Naomi. And that is Ruth chapter 2. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow.